Have you ever found yourself trying really hard to learn English, putting in hours, maybe memorizing lists of words?
Oh, definitely. That feeling of working hard but not seeing the results.
Exactly. Like you learn maybe 50 new words one day, feel great about it, and then, I don't know, 3 days later you try to use them.
And they're just gone.
Vanished, completely gone. It's so frustrating, isn't it? And I think that feeling, that sense that knowledge just leaks out is maybe the biggest hurdle for language learners.
I think you're right. It's a really common struggle. And, it often points back to the same thing. The method isn't working.
Right.
People put in the time, they put in the effort, but maybe they don't have a solid plan, a roadmap. They end up doing things kind of randomly.
Trying to build something without the blueprint, like you said before we started.
Yeah, exactly that. Confusing effort with actual, effective learning.
Well, that confusion, that lack of a clear system is exactly why we're doing this deep dive today. We looked at this really interesting YouTube lesson recently. It lays out a very specific, very structured approach, a methodology that claims it can teach you how to get better at English properly, effectively, and importantly, efficiently.
And it wasn't just a few tips, was it? It was quite comprehensive.
Not at all. It's more like a whole system. It breaks down the language itself, its components, and then gives this step-by-step roadmap.
Yeah, and it seems to be based on the philosophy behind a particular online course model, which is interesting. It's like seeing the theory and the potential application together.
Exactly. So our mission today is to really unpack this. We want to guide you, the listener, through this structure.
Okay.
We'll look at how this source defines the architecture of English, why it argues so strongly for learning certain things at the same time,
Right, the simultaneous learning idea.
how organizing vocabulary by topic is apparently the key to actually remembering it.
That memory retention piece is huge.
And then we'll look at a case study. How does this all work in a real learning system with practice, support, the whole deal?
Sounds like a plan. Let's dive in.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Any good learning system needs structure, right? A foundation.
Absolutely. You need to know what you're actually learning.
Yeah.
The components.
And this source material is very specific about that. It says English is made up of 6 total elements, and it puts them in a kind of hierarchy.
Yes, the hierarchy is key. It dictates the order, the flow. It identifies 2 elements right at the bottom as the sub-skills, the absolute foundation.
And those are,
Grammar and vocabulary, G and V.
okay, grammar and vocabulary. Makes sense. The rules and the words.
Exactly. Grammar is your syntax, the rules for putting sentences together, tense, all that.
Yeah.
Vocabulary is, well, the words themselves, nouns, verbs, adjectives, everything. Your building blocks.
And then sitting on top of that foundation, you've got the 4 main skills, the ones most people think about when they say they want to learn English.
Right. Reading, writing, listening, and speaking are WLS.
So the source structures it like G and V at the base, supporting R, W, L, and S.
Precisely. And the big mistake many learners make, according to this source, is they try to jump straight to those main skills.
Like, I need to speak better, so I'll just practice speaking more.
Exactly. Or, I want to read novels, so I'll just grab a novel. They focus on the output, the reading, writing, listening, speaking, before they've really solidified the input infrastructure,
The G and V.
the G and V. They haven't built the foundation properly.
But the source goes further than just saying it's inefficient, right? It makes a stronger claim about this hierarchy.
It does. This is really the core takeaway from this first part. Grammar and vocabulary must be the starting point. It's not just recommended, it's framed as a necessity for future success.
The claim is that the subskills, G and V, are the absolute foundations for the 4 main skills.
That's the explicit statement.
Okay, let me push back on that a little just to play devil's advocate. We always hear about immersion, right? You go live somewhere, you just pick up listening and speaking naturally, maybe without much formal grammar study at first.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
A really common question.
So why does this structured method insist that improving reading, writing, listening, and speaking is, and I quote, impossible without that solid G and V foundation first? Seems pretty strong.
It is strong. And the source seems to draw a distinction between, let's say, childhood natural acquisition and efficient structured acquisition for adults.
Okay.
For an adult learner who already has a developed logical framework, trying to build those output skills, like speaking without the underlying grammar and vocab. It's like trying to run complex software on incompatible hardware.
Can you break that down? Like, how does weak grammar stop you from understanding speech, for example?
Okay, think about listening. You hear a sentence. Your brain has to do 2 things almost instantly.
Right.
Decode the sounds into words, vocabulary,
Right.
and understand how those words relate to each other based on the sentence structure, the tense markers, the prepositions, grammar.
Okay.
If your vocab is weak, you miss words. Simple enough. But if your grammar is weak, you might hear all the words but completely misunderstand the meaning.
Ah, like you wouldn't catch the difference between he will go and he would go, even if you know he and go.
Exactly. Or you might miss passive voice or complex conditionals. You hear the words, but the relationship between them, the meaning encoded in the structure, is lost. It just becomes noise. Or you guess the meaning incorrectly.
So even listening, which feels kind of passive, is actively relying on your brain recognizing grammar patterns instantly.
Absolutely. Grammar provides the framework to organize the meaning, and vocabulary provides the content. Trying to speak without both being solid, your output is going to be structurally flawed, maybe understandable, but incorrect, like a pigeon.
So the argument is, if G and V aren't solid, if that foundation is weak, any effort on the main skills won't stick, it'll just plateau or fall apart.
That's the core argument. It's about building the operating system of the language, not just memorizing a few useful phrases. That's why this method prioritizes structure and efficiency over just hoping immersion works for an adult learner. Okay, so we've established G and V are foundational. They have to come first, or at least be the primary focus initially.
Right, the base of the pyramid.
Which immediately brings up the next big question for learners.
Yeah.
Okay, where do I start within that foundation? Do I focus on grammar rules for a month, then switch to vocabulary lists, or the other way around?
Ah, yes, the classic dilemma. Grammar first or vocab first. So many courses seem to pick one to start with.
They do. But this particular source, this methodology we're looking at, gives a very clear, almost forceful answer.
Which is?
You absolutely must study both grammar and vocabulary at the same time, simultaneously.
Not one after the other.
No. It's presented as essential, not just a suggestion. The reason goes back to the fundamental purpose of learning a language.
Oh, which is communication, presumably.
Exactly. Whether you're learning a grammar rule or a new word, why are you doing it? You're doing it so you can eventually make sentences, right, to communicate ideas, either by speaking or writing.
Okay, makes sense.
And you can only really achieve that goal efficiently if grammar and vocabulary develop together, hand in hand. They depend on each other.
The source used some thought experiments to illustrate this, didn't it? To show why studying them separately causes problems.
Yes, they're quite effective. Let's take the first scenario. A student decides, okay, I'm going to focus on vocabulary first.
Right, so they spend a week learning, say, 50 new words related to cooking. They know the words, now what?
Well, the natural urge is to use those words, isn't it?
Yeah.
To make sentences about cooking. I chop the vegetables, the soup boils, something like that.
Okay.
But wait, if they haven't studied the corresponding grammar, how do they know if it should be boil or boils? How do they know the correct sentence order? What preposition follows chop in certain contexts?
Ah, right. They have the ingredients, vocab, but not the recipe, grammar.
Precisely. The sentences they produce might be understandable, maybe, but they'll be grammatically incorrect. Yesterday I cooked soup. They have the words, but the mechanism to put them together accurately, especially regarding tense, is missing.
Which leads to that feeling of not sounding fluent and probably frustration. The vocabulary feels useless.
It becomes inert. Exactly. Now, flip it. Scenario 2. Grammar first.
Okay, so this student spends weeks mastering, I don't know, the present perfect continuous tense. They know the structure inside out.
They're a grammar whiz. They understand the rule perfectly. Subject plus have-has plus been plus verbing.
Right.
But now they want to apply that rule. They want to make a sentence using it. What do they need?
Words, vocabulary.
Exactly. They need the verbs, the nouns, the adverbs to plug into that grammatical structure. If they haven't learned the relevant vocabulary, the grammar rule remains purely theoretical.
Like knowing how to build an engine but having no parts.
Perfect analogy. The grammar knowledge is abstract, unusable in practice. You can't make sentences about your recent activities if you don't know the words for those activities.
So studying either one in isolation creates this constant bottleneck for the other. You learn words you can't use correctly, or you learn rules you can't apply for lack of words.
That's the core argument for simultaneous study, and the source then suggests how to implement this.
Right, the implementation model.
A good learning structure, it argues, should teach one grammar lesson and one vocabulary lesson together in the same study session or module.
Yeah.
And crucially,
Yes.
they need to be related to each other.
Not just any grammar rule and any list of words.
No. For example, if you learn the grammar for comparing things, comparative adjectives like bigger, faster.
Okay.
Then the vocabulary lesson in that same session should give you adjectives you can immediately use with that structure, words describing size, speed, cost, etc.
So you learn the rule how to compare and the words big, small, fast, slow, all at once.
Exactly. Or if you learn past simple tense grammar,
Mm-hmm.
the vocabulary should include common past simple verbs and time expressions like yesterday, last week.
I see. So every grammar point immediately gets vocabulary to make it usable, and every vocabulary set immediately gets a grammatical structure to fit into.
Precisely. It creates this synergy. When you finish that combined lesson, you haven't just learned two separate things. You've learned a functional unit. You can actually do something new in English right away.
That makes a lot of sense. It eliminates that lag time between learning something and being able to apply it. Accelerates the whole process towards actually communicating.
That's the idea. Efficiency through interdependence.
Okay, so we've got the G&V foundation, and we know we need to study them simultaneously and in relation to each other. That seems logical.
It does build a strong case for that structure.
But let's circle back to that really painful problem we started with, the forgetting.
Ah, yes. The leaky bucket syndrome.
Right. The source highlights this all too common issue. Students learn new words, maybe even in context with grammar, but then when they need them in a real conversation or while writing, poof, they're gone. Inaccessible.
This is where many methods, even well-intentioned ones, seem to fall down. And learners often blame themselves, right? I just have a bad memory.
Yeah, definitely. But the source argues it's not usually the memory capacity that's the problem.
No, it's the organization, the filing system in the brain, or lack thereof.
And the reason given for this poor filing system?
Random memorization. If you just pick words randomly, maybe from a book you're reading, or just words you happen to like, the sound of your brain struggles to find a connection between them.
Like my earlier example, peninsula, fervent, obsolete, teaspoon, monument. There's no obvious link there.
Exactly. And because there's no link, your brain treats them as isolated pieces of data. Storing them is harder, and retrieving them even harder.
It's like throwing files randomly into a huge filing cabinet without any labels.
That's a great analogy. You know the file for teaspoon is in there somewhere, but finding it quickly when you need it for conversation, almost impossible. The retrieval time is just too slow for fluent speech.
Yeah.
So the word stays passive. You might recognize it if you hear it, but you can't produce it yourself.
Okay, so what's the fix? How does this methodology propose to organize the filing cabinet?
The solution presented is the topic-based approach, organizing vocabulary by semantic field or topic.
So instead of random words,
Instead of those 5 random words, you learn, say, 20 words, all related to a single topic, like family and relationships.
okay, so words like sibling, cousin, relative, spouse, get along with, bring up,
Exactly. Words that naturally cluster together in meaning and usage.
and the cognitive benefit of doing this.
It's apparently quite significant. When words are grouped by topic, your brain recognizes them as belonging to a specific category, a specific file folder.
Ah, like putting a label on that drawer in the filing cabinet.
Precisely. So
Yeah.
when you start talking about your family or someone asks you about relationships, that topic acts as a mental trigger.
Your brain knows exactly where to look.
Yes. The source says the mind immediately opens the door to that specific vocabulary set. You don't have to search the whole warehouse. You go straight to the family and relationships folder. Retrieval becomes much faster, much more efficient.
Making it possible to actually use the words actively in conversation, moving from passive recognition to active production.
That's the goal. And this isn't just for single words either. The source emphasizes that this topic-based grouping should apply to all the building blocks. Meaning new words, yes, but also phrases, idioms, collocations, and phrasal verbs. They should all be learned under a relevant topic umbrella.
Okay, that's important, especially collocations, right? Those words that just naturally go together.
Absolutely critical for sounding natural.
Right.
Think about heavy rain versus strong rain.
Right, strong rain sounds a bit odd in English, even though strong and heavy can be synonyms.
Exactly. If you learn vocabulary randomly, you might learn strong and rain separately and never realize they don't typically pair up. But if you learn vocabulary under the topic of weather,
You learn heavy rain, light drizzle, torrential downpour.
and related idioms like raining cats and dogs, or phrasal verbs like clear up, pour down, all together.
So you're learning language in usable chunks, the way native speakers actually use it.
Yes. The topic provides the context that glues these related items together. When you access the weather topic in your mind, You retrieve not just isolated words, but these natural partnerships and phrases.
Which drastically reduces the mental effort needed to build a fluent, natural-sounding sentence on the fly.
It shifts the process from laborious construction to rapid retrieval and assembly. The topic-based system is presented as the key mechanism for overcoming that forgetting problem. All right, so we have the G&V Foundation being built simultaneously using a topic-based approach for better retention. That covers the acquisition part pretty thoroughly.
Right, getting the knowledge into your head in an organized way.
But just acquiring knowledge isn't enough for fluency, is it? You need to make sure it sticks and that you can actually use it.
So what comes next in this methodology?
Practice and monitoring. This is presented as a crucial phase after the initial learning.
More than just practice makes perfect, though. The source seemed specific about monitoring development.
Yes, the feedback loop is vital. Students absolutely need to practice what they've learned, test their understanding. And a good system, according to this source, must provide lots of exercises and quizzes. And these aren't just busy work. They need to be specifically designed to effectively and efficiently monitor how well the student is absorbing and can apply the new grammar and vocabulary.
So the quizzes aren't just pass-fail, they're diagnostic tools.
Exactly. They provide objective data. You might feel like you understood that grammar lesson on conditionals, but the quiz results will show if you can actually apply the rule correctly in different contexts. It pinpoints the weak spots.
Without that kind of testing, you're just guessing about your progress, relying on feeling.
Right. And the monitoring needs to be regular. Not just a big test at the end of a unit, but ideally smaller checks after each lesson or topic bundle.
To make sure the information moved from short-term memory to something you can actually retrieve and use. Testing both the grammar rules and the topic-based vocabulary.
Yes, testing both in context. Can you use the new weather vocabulary correctly with the past simple tense you just learned? That kind of integration.
Okay, practice and monitoring makes sense. But the source mentioned one more element, something described as inseparable from the learning process.
Yes. Teacher support.
This seems really important, especially in the context of online or self-study courses, which often lack it.
Definitely. The source highlights this as a major potential failure point. What happens when you do an exercise, you get something wrong, you read the explanation, but you still don't get it.
Right, or you encounter some weird exception to a rule, or a word has multiple meanings and you're confused about the context.
Exactly. Those moments of confusion can completely derail a learner. If there's no one to ask, you get stuck, frustrated, and might even give up.
So the argument is that even in a primarily self-directed system, access to a teacher isn't a bonus feature, it's essential.
That's the position taken. A good course structure must provide a way for students to communicate directly with their teachers when they hit these roadblocks.
To get personalized clarification.
Yes, because sometimes you need more than an automated explanation. You need someone who understands the nuances of the language and maybe understands why you're making that particular mistake to explain it in a different way.
That human element seems key for overcoming those really sticky learning points. Automated feedback can tell you that you're wrong, but maybe not always why in a way that clicks for you.
Precisely. So, putting it all together, this structured methodology rests on several pillars. Start with G&V, study them simultaneously, use topic-based organization for everything, provide ample practice and monitoring,
and crucially, integrate direct, accessible teacher support to handle confusion and keep the momentum going.
That forms the complete ecosystem for effective learning, according to this source.
Okay, so we've got the theory down. G&V Foundation, simultaneous topic-based learning, practice, monitoring, teacher support. Now let's look at how this translates into a real product. The source gave a case study, right? The structure of their specific course built on these ideas.
Yes, they detail the architecture of the course they developed, apparently over 3 years, which aims to implement this methodology precisely. Its main goal is improving general English by focusing squarely on grammar and vocabulary first.
And they structure it in levels, presumably.
Correct. 3 main levels: beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Pretty standard tiers.
But they emphasize something before you even start, don't they?
Yes, the placement test. They highly recommend taking their free placement test before enrolling.
And that's not just administrative.
No, it's pedagogical. It's about efficiency. Starting at the right level is crucial. Too easy, you get bored. Too hard, you get overwhelmed and discouraged. The test aims to place you optimally from day one.
That makes sense. Maximize learning time, minimize frustration, What if the test gets it wrong, though? Or if a student feels misplaced after starting?
They seem to have anticipated that. The source mentioned a flexibility mechanism. If you feel the level isn't right after joining, you can contact their support, explain the situation, and they can manually change your level.
Oh, that's good. It shows they prioritize the actual learning experience over just sticking to the initial test result, adaptability.
Exactly. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, the lesson structure itself. This is where the simultaneous G&V study really comes alive.
Okay, how many lessons are we talking?
The beginner and intermediate levels each have 20 lessons. The advanced level has 22, presumably reflecting greater complexity.
And inside each lesson, what's the formula?
Every single lesson follows a consistent four-part structure designed to enforce that simultaneous learning.
4 parts. Okay, what are they?
First, you get the grammar input, a dedicated grammar lesson on a specific point.
Step 1, learn the rule.
Second, immediately after, you get 2 grammar exercises. Practice applying that specific rule.
Step 2, practice the rule. 2 exercises.
Third, you then get the vocabulary lesson. And critically, it's topic-based and designed to relate to or be usable with the grammar you just learned.
Step 3, learn related words.
And fourth, right after the vocab lesson, you get 1 vocabulary quiz, testing your recall and understanding of those new topic-based words.
Step 4, test the words. Okay, interesting ratio there.
Yeah.
2 grammar exercises, but only 1 vocab quiz per lesson. Any idea why?
Speculation, but it likely relates to the nature of the skills. Grammar often involves understanding and applying patterns, which might benefit from more varied repetition and drilling the 2 exercises.
Right, manipulating sentence structures.
Whereas vocabulary, especially when learned thematically, might benefit more from a quick, targeted retrieval check, the quiz, to ensure the words and their immediate context collocations are accessible rather than just drilling definitions. One checks application, the other checks recall within context.
That makes sense. Different types of knowledge require slightly different reinforcement. Now, what about the big 4 skills, reading, writing, listening, speaking? If the focus is so heavily on G&V initially.
Good question. The source was up front that G&V is the initial strong focus, the foundation. But the course isn't static.
Meaning?
They emphasize that it's constantly being updated. They regularly add new lessons, new exercises, and specifically new content and practice activities focused on reading, writing, listening, and speaking.
Ah, okay. So it's not that those skills are ignored, but they're layered on top of the G&V foundation as the learner progresses.
That seems to be the model. As you solidify your understanding of, say, past tenses, G, and travel vocabulary, V, the system might then introduce reading passages about past trips or listening exercises featuring travel stories.
So the practice becomes more integrated over time.
Exactly. And these updates are apparently included for existing students. So the course grows with you, gradually demanding more application of the foundational knowledge through the 4 main skills. Build the base, then build the house.
So we've seen the methodology and a specific implementation. It's useful now, perhaps, to place this specific course model within the broader landscape of online English learning options, as the source did.
Right, they kind of categorize the market to show where their approach fits.
They outline 2 dominant models currently out there. The first is what they call teacher-based.
This is your classic private tutor setup, maybe done via video call now, one-to-one lessons. Exactly.
Yeah.
Personalized attention, direct interaction with the teacher. But the source's analysis was blunt. This model is typically very expensive.
Yeah, hourly rates for private tutoring can add up incredibly fast, especially if you need consistent lessons over months or years. Not feasible for everyone.
Not at all. So that's model 1, high interaction, high cost. Then there's model 2, which has become huge online, the pure self-study or self-paced course.
This is where you buy access to materials, videos, PDFs, quizzes, and you just work through it entirely on your own time.
Right, it solves the cost and flexibility problem. Much cheaper, study whatever you want. But the source identified what it called a very big problem with this model.
Let me guess. No teacher support.
Bingo. The complete lack of access to a teacher for clarification. If you get stuck, you're truly shuck. There's no one to ask.
Which, as we discussed, can be a major reason why people abandon self-study courses. That confusion leads to frustration.
Precisely. So you have expensive but supported versus cheap but unsupported, which leads to the third way proposed by the source.
The hybrid solution.
Exactly. They position their model as combining the best aspects of the other 2. Self-study and self-paced course, but with direct teacher support.
Okay, so how does that work practically? You get all the online materials.
Yes, all the video lessons, Grammar and topic-based vocab,
Yeah.
the exercises, the quizzes, you study on your own schedule. But
But if you hit a wall,
yeah,
if something's unclear,
you can directly contact the teacher. The mechanism mentioned was a support ticket system. You send your question, maybe referencing a specific lesson or quiz item, and a teacher responds.
so you get the affordability and flexibility of self-study, but you still have that safety net, that human clarification available when you need it.
That's the idea. It avoids the high cost of continuous one-to-one tutoring, but eliminates the critical weakness of pure self-study courses, the lack of support.
It's like having an expert on call rather than having them sit with you the whole time.
A good way to put it. And this support ties back into the monitoring. If the quizzes show you're consistently misunderstanding something, you don't just get an automated wrong. You can use the support system to ask why and get a personalized explanation.
Bridging that gap between automated feedback and real human understanding.
Exactly. And they didn't stop there. While the core G&V learning is video-based for efficiency, they also mention plans for more interactive elements.
Addressing the speaking skill more directly.
Yes, plans for future live webinars involving all students.
Okay, what's the purpose of those?
Multiple things. It's a chance for students to ask questions live, interact directly with the instructor in real time. But importantly, it's also designed as a space for students to practice speaking with each other.
So bringing in that active real-time communication practice that's hard to get in a purely self-study format.
Precisely. It adds a layer of dynamic application and community interaction onto the structured, self-paced foundation.
So the overall picture is a system built on efficient G&V acquisition via simultaneous topic-based video lessons, reinforced by exercises and quizzes, backed by direct teacher support for clarification, and potentially supplemented with live group practice.
That seems to be the complete model presented, a structured attempt to address all the common failure points in language learning.
We've covered a lot of ground here, the 6 elements, why G&V need to be simultaneous, the power of topic-based learning, the role of practice, monitoring, and that crucial teacher support.
It's a very detailed methodology.
So let's bring it all together. What are the key takeaways for someone listening right now who wants to learn English more effectively, whether they use this specific course or just want to improve their own study habits?
I think the absolute core message is about structure and interdependence. You really need that solid foundation in grammar and vocabulary. Don't skip it or rush it.
And study them together, right? That simultaneous approach seemed critical.
Absolutely. Don't treat them as separate subjects. Your grammar learning should directly enable your vocabulary use, and your vocabulary should give immediate context to your grammar. They have to work as a team.
That makes so much sense when you break it down like that. Trying to learn them separately really does seem like tying one hand behind your back.
It really does. And the second major takeaway has to be about memory and retrieval, the topic-based organization.
For everything, words, phrases, idioms, collocations.
Yes, stop memorizing random lists. Grouping linguistic items by topic leverages how your brain naturally categorizes information. It makes storage easier and, crucially, retrieval much, much faster.
Turning passive knowledge into active, usable language. Building that mental filing system.
Exactly. That's how you beat the forgetting curve. And finally, don't underestimate the need for practice. Feedback, those quizzes and exercises aren't just tests. They're learning tools and support.
Knowing when you need help and having a way to get it, whether it's a teacher, a language partner, or a reliable resource.
That complete ecosystem is what seems to drive real progress, according to this analysis. Foundation, simultaneous learning, organization, practice, monitoring, support.
It provides a solid blueprint, really, for anyone serious about learning English, regardless of the specific materials they use.
It does offer a clear alternative to just randomly trying things and hoping for the best.
Now, there's one more detail about the specific course used as a case study that caught my eye, the guarantee.
Ah, yes, the 100% guarantee and the 7-day full refund policy, no questions asked.
That's quite a statement of confidence in their methodology, isn't it?
It certainly is. It reduces the risk for the learner significantly.
And that brings us to our final thought for you, the listener. Learning a language, achieving real fluency, it's a huge investment. Not just money, maybe, but definitely your time, your energy, your focus, resources that are always limited.
A massive commitment.
So given that commitment, how important is it to be able to try out a specific, structured methodology like this one, emphasizing simultaneous, topic-based G&V learning with teacher support essentially risk-free?
That ability to test the waters for, say, 7 days. See if the system clicks for you. See if you feel that structured progress. It seems pretty valuable, doesn't it? It lets you verify if this systematic approach might actually be the key to unlocking the results you've been looking for before you fully commit your valuable time and effort.
Something to definitely consider as you map out your own path to mastering English. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.